Hello and welcome to the Move Your Business Forward podcast. These talks are hosted by Boll, founder of Evoke Management and CEO of International Leaders UK. We'll be talking with experts from both these companies about issues that affect SME companies today.
Welcome to this edition of the Big Squeeze podcast. Today I'm joined by a couple of colleagues from Evoke Management, Sam and Nick. Welcome both of you. Good to have you here. Today we're going to be talking about something I think all businesses could probably do a little bit better. I think with all the challenges companies have at the moment regarding inflation, supply chain issues, retaining and attracting talent, all the kind of issues that are around at the moment. One area that I think every business could benefit from spending some time on to really help the business performance and understand where they're going to help set the business up for the next months and years is innovation, and particularly how companies can really develop an innovative culture within their team. So hopefully that's what we're going to have a bit of a discussion about today, picking up on experience that we've got across things we've done with Sam and Nick. So Sam, I know you're a massive fan of innovation and have worked with companies that have been very innovative. What would be your starting point for any business thinking they need to be more innovative?
I think it's important to start off with that we acknowledge there's many different types of innovation, from new discoveries, new markets, new products, but the fundamental core behind it is that it's a mindset. So it's how you approach and solve problems as a business is your innovation, rather than just the actual products and processes and people that you're innovating. It's how you turn an idea into a solution and how that adds value to you as a business. I think it's also important to understand, when it comes to innovation, if you think back to when you first started your business, you're in an uncertain world with this new idea and you're constantly innovating to try and get your business out there. And you find as businesses begin to grow and develop and move into different parts of their life cycle, it's not that they forget, but they move away from this idea of innovation. And innovation is something that needs to be continuous and take your business through all the way through your life cycles, growth, even into maturity. And to do that, it needs to be a mindset within the business. And I think my first practical piece of advice is that, or a top tip, I know you like to talk top tips, Rob, is that innovation needs to be part of your strategy. It needs to be a driving force from the top, from the very beginning, all the way through.
I think there's a top tip, and we always love a top tip. Yeah, driving it from the top is going to be important. Just to bring Nick into this, innovation, what's your immediate kind of thoughts and importance for a business?
Having spent the last 30-something years either in insurance for the bulk of it or tech for the last 4 years, I think there's some extremes that one can paint. I don't think it would be overly critical to say that the insurance industry historically, perhaps not in the last 5 years, but historically has been possibly the least innovative of any industry vertical. Whereas tech, of course, depends upon innovation. And in fact, working for those I have done for startups in the tech space for the last 3 years, often the tendency or the desire to pivot is so strong that actually the strategy lacks focus at some stages. I think post-COVID, I think most companies have had to reevaluate how they create that innovative culture. I think there is no doubt that face-to-face meetings can spark innovation more easily than Zoom calls. So I completely agree with Sam. It's a big thing. It's fundamental. I think you have to create a non-judgmental environment in which people can work and be confident to express opinions, come up with ideas without being shot down. So it's cultural, it's strategic, it's a fundamental.
So in terms of just trying to get that embedded in the culture and the working week, the working month of a business, what would be your thoughts, Sam, in terms of how you just get this rolling, other than someone at the top going, we need to be more innovative?
Well, the definition of innovation within your business does need to be defined, and it needs to be defined by someone. And it's what is your innovative goal, and what is driving you? How are you going to get there? Who's responsible for it? Is everyone responsible for it? Are you certain teams? What type of innovation are you looking at? I think it's worth also pointing out there's no right or wrong way to innovate or to develop an innovative culture. If you look at some really large businesses, I'm slightly different from Nick. I come from a products-driven background, and companies I've worked with are products and service within consumer goods. Mm-hmm. So if you take a look at the likes of 3M, you've got a very centralized kind of old school format. Everyone has their role and everyone does their job. But since the 1900s, 3M's curiosity, problem solving, collaboration, these are all visions and values of the company. This is still going 100 years later. However, how they drive those and how they implement those moves forward as we've changed throughout the decades. So, for instance, 3M now has a vision, philosophy as you call it, where 1/3 of their revenue needs to come from products that didn't exist 5 years ago. So they've set a goal, and now within that goal, they then have to build their culture around this so that everyone in the business is able to attain this very strong innovative goal. And they do that through loads of different ways. Every employee is referred to as an innovator. So they're trying to build a mindset that you are all innovators. They're given freedom. They're given a percentage of their time to work against something totally different to what they're currently working on. Although they have a very structured office where they have finance, marketing, and sales, they also build in the ability where your door is always open, so you can go and walk from one product that has absolutely nothing to do with your product and sit down and have a chat with the person, anybody within that team. Then you can take a look at another type of business, take Innocent Drinks, that has a very flat culture, very, very different, or flat matrix, if you like to do it, where 3 friends set up at a festival, started making some drinks. They literally had a yes/no bucket. I don't know if everyone knows the story, but their story was, if you like our drink, shall we give up our day job and do this as a business? And at the end of the day, the bucket said yes. So there's their story. Now that story is taken all the way through their business from an innovative perspective. So innovation is everyday behavior at Innocent Drinks. So that as you've got 3M that's slightly more old school, and then you've got innovative that has this culture that's very different. And everything within their culture, they have a banana phone. I don't know if you've heard about the banana phone. So on the back of every innovative product, there is a phone number that you could call, and the person walking past that banana phone, who is the closest, has to answer it and respond to the customer on the end of the phone. Are they going to ask for a joke? Are they going to ask how to spell the word vocabulary? There's all different things, and what they're doing is that they're creating an environment that's allowing their employees to be very open-minded, very alert. And I think one of the big things in innovation is it's quite good to keep your team on their toes. And if you're looking to specifically innovate, it doesn't matter what type of structural format that you have, but make sure. So I meant to say also about Innocent Drinks, they have a very open, flat structure. It's a very hot desk. So you can be sitting next to a finance person, and you could be you could be marketing or content manager. So they have a very different way of developing their innovative culture. But one thing I do like the idea of in innovation is, and this I think is what you're referring to when you introduced me, but is coming up with tactics within your business that suit your business based on your vision, that allows your team to develop this innovation. And it can be anything as simple as keep your team small, so collaborate, so take 2 or 3 individuals from areas of a business that wouldn't normally work together, give them something to solve, give them a problem to solve, and give them a timeline. And make sure you understand why you're doing this. So you're giving them a timeline because people tend to work better under pressure. And then you're given a small team of collaboration who don't normally work with each other, because you really want them to think outside the box, and you don't want someone to turn around and say, oh no, that's not going to work, because, and if you're all in the same team, you're probably all coming at it from the same perspective, so you're not troubleshooting in the same way as you would, I've gone into minute detail now, sorry. But in the same way as you would as if you had a big mass kind of brainstorming with 15 people and no one would take responsibility, and you wouldn't get a kind of list of all the outcomes that you could do to solve a problem. Who's going to implement it and how you're going to get it to the next step. So I think it's important to find the format that suits your business when it comes to innovating.
Yeah, no, I think there's some really good thoughts and ideas there, and it makes sense, a lot of what you're saying. I'll pick up on a couple of thoughts around the KPIs around percentage of revenue from new products, because I think that's an easy metric for people to get their head around. I guess one thing, and Nick, this is for you, I guess, because you've been involved with a little bit of coaching people around this. Obviously, you're always going to get people that might be perceived as being more innovative in a team, and I guess it's trying to put some kind of structure around that, but also encouraging others that don't see themselves as being innovators of being freely able to contribute. What's your kind of thoughts on how to get people more engaged in the innovation cycle, more engaged with that's something that we need to do? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, sure. You have to give everybody a voice. That's crucial. I was reading a book recently called A Time to Think, which advocates allowing everybody within a team to be given the opportunity to speak uninterrupted for a period of time. So you, over a period of time, you create an environment where people know that they will be given a voice, given an opportunity to speak in a non-judgmental environment, knowing that they're not going to be shot down, knowing that their idea will not be rubbished, and you then create a degree of confidence in the team where everybody can express an opinion. If there's a culture, as Sam has been talking about, a culture of innovation and encouraging the staff to put ideas forward, you need to create an environment where they feel they can do that safely. And that's a management responsibility at the end of the day. That's cultural. If that culture doesn't exist, then it needs strong management, strong leadership to create it over a period of time to build the confidence amongst the staff.
Okay, great. So that makes a lot of sense. And do you think it's reasonable to expect everyone on the team to kind of get on board this innovation bus, or do you think there's it's picking the best people or the most suitable people for these kind of discussions and thoughts?
I think it's for everybody. I think it's for everybody, and actually, there's a strong argument to say that actually, industry verticals should bring in people from other industries to create that environment where, you get away from the monocular view of life. You bring in people with different disciplines, different perspectives, different industry experience, and that creates innovation. Otherwise, if you're surrounding yourself with people who have exactly the same experience of the same industry and have never worked outside of it, then creating innovation is going to be more of a challenge, in my view.
Yeah, no, understood. That makes sense. Sam, anything else to add on that kind of the people piece? And I think then we'll pick up on a few of these KPIs that I think are quite interesting.
I love this idea of bringing people outside. Don't just hire people for the experience within that kind of role as such. I think it's Tesla hires problem solvers. So you are hired as a problem solver, not with your experience within marketing. And I like that concept. I like that idea when you're looking to drive innovation. Business solves a problem. You solve a problem for your consumer. So it needs to be it's a good drive for everybody to have, and everybody that works in your business. And as Nick said, allowing them, I think it's important when Nick said allowing them to have their voice, when these things, allowing them to be able to trial these ideas, and when they fail, to discuss them and what can come out of those discussions. I think it's important. There's that wonderful story, again, I'm going to use 3M, where the innovator was told to go and make the strongest glue he could find because they needed something to stick cement together. And he came back to the table and he's like, well, I found a glue, but it peels off every time I go to stick it. And that's where Post-its came from. So it's just as important to discuss the failures and the possibilities behind that as it is the actual innovative idea that we originally brought to the table.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One thing I think an interesting thing, you touched on this, Sam, is setting some kind of metrics, because I think innovation is a very hard thing to measure. And I've heard before, and I've seen a number of businesses use this, right? We want a percentage of our revenue to be coming from products or services that we've only had in the last 5 years, 3 years, whatever it is. I think that's something to really get on board with, is to go, okay, a percentage of our revenue, which we expect to be this, has to come from new initiatives, new products, new ideas. I think that's really useful. And I think there's other ways of doing this as well. And it could be regarding, on the cost side, we want to do more of what we're doing, but with less people or less expense, and just setting targets that just change the way people think about problems and the way we're doing things. Because asking those questions, setting those objectives, are what get people thinking and solving those problems. I don't know, Nick, if you've got any examples of those kind of metrics that can help just get some numbers behind this and some accountability for this is what we're trying to aim for.
Sure. I mean, on it from a tech perspective, I think close interaction with the customer success team is vital. There has to be a great working relationship between customer success, between product development, sales, constant communication to learn from those that are talking directly to the customer. And unless there is that feedback loop, then possible innovation improvement is lost in the mix. If it remains in a silo and never filters its way back to the broader team, then the product's never going to evolve. You're not going to end up, forging ahead and developing happier customers if you're not evaluating the feedback. So absolutely open communication, and focus from a tech perspective. In my opinion, it's about the customer. And I think the really successful tech companies out there spend a lot of time and effort really understanding the psychology of the customer that they're selling to. UX researchers with psychology degrees. I met one a couple of weeks ago. And that makes perfect sense when you think about it. You get somebody who really understands what the customer needs and feeds that back to the wider team.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And Sam, any other thoughts on these kind of metrics or
yeah, I think it's also important that you have something in there from like an internal perspective as well with regards. I think it's some of the companies I've worked with haven't necessarily allowed their employees access into the whole understanding of the business. So for instance, I think we can sometimes get bogged down with thinking that a finance person is the only person that can sort the profit problem, and that's not necessarily the case. So I think it's important that there are some metrics in there that allow you to gain feedback. For instance, you do a big deep dive once a quarter into what's motivating your employees, any frustrations that they have. I think that in its own right is quite important in driving innovation and understanding how attuned your whole team and infrastructure are to it. I think and by doing that, you can react by putting more tactics in place to help your team understand, or to help your team get on board with those goals and how to achieve and measure them better.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you, Nick, for sharing that. This obviously only a bit of an intro into this, so we need to bring this chat to a close. Are there any final thoughts you want to add, just to encourage anyone to really put in place or develop their kind of innovative culture more? Nick, any final thoughts? You're going to give one tip?
Yeah, I heard a great story the other day from somebody who did a large data project at Bupa, and they discovered an extremely strong correlation between health and well-being of the staff and profitability.
Right.
And there's a lot of that that's not surprising, but the numbers showed that it was absolutely the case.
And I think encouraging people to think and giving them space to think and the opportunity that you can go and think it just ties into that so nicely, right? Because the best ideas don't necessarily come when you're under pressure, sat at a desk or trying to keep on top of whatever you're doing. It's potentially out on a walk, doing something away from work. And it's just giving people that time to just go into that thinking space and embrace it. Sam, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would, throwing it out there, don't ignore your competition. You don't have to be first to market with innovation. There's lots of different ways to innovate. And lots of companies, Google wasn't the first to market, have managed to gain some really good growth and market leadership based on knowing what their competition's doing and how to innovate kind of before and alongside them and how the consumers are reacting to it. So
yeah.
It's innovation is the big picture. Keep it strategic.
No, good. No, thank you both. Just a couple of things that I'm going to share. And Sam, I think I got this from you. I think the concept of an innovation team, I think is really good. I think actually putting a label on the fact that you've got people in your team that are actually part of an innovation group and get them meeting regularly and talking and just have that as a focus, I think works really well for some businesses. The other thing I think is just encouraging everyone to generate ideas. I did some work a while ago with a company that does events, so kind of events either for stag do's, hen parties, and various other things as well. And one of their key things was coming up with unique events. And the way that worked is every week, every single employee had to come up with 5 new ideas for events. And a lot of them would just be pushed. But the fact everyone was expected to generate 5, some of those were brilliant, game-changing ideas that were new to the market and they could really go do something with. But setting that target and enforcing everyone every week to have 5 new ideas gets people thinking in a different way. And you're putting pressure on, say, actually, we've got to come up with new things, new ways of doing things. And whether you apply that to problems or different ways you can improve a process, it's just getting people into the habit of doing it regularly is just going to add to the pot of innovation, which is great. But thank you both. I really enjoyed that chat today, and hopefully been some use for a few people listening. So thank you both.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like more information about the topics discussed in this podcast, then you can find us on our website at moveyourbusinessforward.com.